After struggling to solve his son's gut health issues with generic probiotics, our next guest took it upon himself to create a custom probiotic for his child and now aims to do the same for the millions of people worldwide who suffer from gut health issues. Sun Jain, CEO and founder of Sun Genomics, joins us to discuss how he and his team are personalizing gut health by customizing precision probiotics and nutrition for individuals based on their DNA and biomarkers. Join us as Sunny walks us through his founding story of Sun Genomics and how his company's technology is transforming lives for years to come. Let's go. Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us. Sunny, welcome to our podcast. I'm excited to spend some time with you today.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about gut health today.
Well, given your passion to help create a healthcare system that prevents disease and aiming to help hundreds of millions of people who suffer from gut health issues worldwide, I'm fired up to have this important conversation today with a national leader in this space. But before we dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And lastly, please visit the bottom of the episode notes to connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Clubhouse in order to further the conversations occurring on this podcast. All right, Sunny, it's almost time for our community to learn how you and the Sun Genomics team are creating the world's first and only fully personalized probiotic. But first, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to others who are passionate about reimagining the health of our world?
The one piece of advice I would give is let's begin to look at a different healthcare system. Our current healthcare system looks at curing diseases, and we need a healthcare system that is designed to prevent diseases. Instead of developing drugs, start looking at pathways or biomarkers or something that can give you an indication that something is wrong with your body and quickly work to fix that pathway. It's like you don't want to wait until the check engine light turns on because you know that's going to be a really expensive repair bill. Let's try to head that off.
You know, I couldn't agree more, Sunny. It's this notion of getting upstream, right? We are in such a reactionary mode here with our current healthcare system, of course. And how do we get more upstream? How do we create those mechanisms for prevention? And I also look at that, Sunny, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I'm looking at that in like the education system. What does it look like to get to our young people, our students out there? Again, get upstream. Is this a mindset that you've always had in regards to creating a preventative type of environment? Is that something that's carried you through your career?
Yeah, I focused in on molecular medicine in my career, and I've always had a tendency to go down the rabbit hole, but then go down the rabbit hole and bring that back up, right? Like bring up what you understand and know about this specific area and see if you can make some changes in the way things are being done at the top level or high level. And I think that's where the microbiome really is changing the way we view general health practices. And it's really impacted almost every medical field, I think, out there.
Well, I know with your history, and we're going to dive into it because there's a lot of history and a lot of expertise in this podcast today coming from my guest, the one and only Sun Jain. I know you have a lot to discuss. You've went down those rabbit holes. You've brought some really good information and skill set back up to help build Sun Genomics. We're going to dive into all of that and what you're doing with the Flore product after we get back from thanking our community champion sponsor. Located in Denver, Colorado's nationally ranked River North District, Catalyst is a healthcare innovation campus that brings together stakeholders from across the industry to accelerate innovation and drive real, lasting change our nation desperately needs. From established organizations to startups, from accelerators to advocacy organizations, and from medical schools to global companies, everyone at Catalyst works side by side to create, develop, refine, and bring to market cutting-edge innovations that will fundamentally transform healthcare as we know it. With industry leaders like Medical Group Management Association, Olive, Medical Solutions, UC Health, CirrusMD, and many others calling Catalyst home, along with innovative pioneers visiting from across the nation, Catalyst continually fosters their foundational belief that collaboration and partnerships will move the healthcare industry forward. to virtually tour Catalyst and claim your space on campus or host an upcoming event. Visit catalysthealthtech.com or visit the top of the episode notes and click on their link. All right, we are back with Sunny Jain, CEO of Sun Genomics and the creator of Flore. Sunny, thank you so much. You set the stage for us. Couldn't agree more with everything you shared on the front end of this podcast. I can't wait to dive in. You guys are now 6.5 years old at Sun Genomics, doing some wonderful work. You have had an unbelievable and unparalleled career and leader in the space that you've been in. Looking forward to hearing about that and where those aha moments were to give life to Sun Genomics, how it came to be. What are those reasons why that fuel entrepreneurs like you? Want to hear that story. Then, of course, how are things going today? What's happening in the marketplace with the Flore product and Sun Genomics? And then we're going to look a little tomorrow as well. What do you see in future state? We'll grab that crystal ball. What do you see on the horizon? What do we need to be mindful of as leaders in this industry? Of course, we'll also ask how we can be helping you as well. But first, Sunny, take our community back. How did this all come to be in the first place? Where were those aha moments? What got you fired up to launch Sun Genomics?
Yeah, before we had this amazing movement of individuals that are experiencing Flore, the international reach that we have, the tens and thousands of customers nationally distributed, it all kind of started not from an entrepreneur's dream. It was just me being a father and a dad. My son was having GI issues. He was about 6 months old. And at the time, you take him to the doctor says, well, he's too young for any medications. Why don't you try a probiotic? And so I thought I had my dad moment there. I'll run to the natural food store and go pick up a probiotic. And I get there and I'm faced with what I call the wall of probiotic paralysis. It's just like a refrigerated section next to a room temp section, cute babies on the bottle. Some have different strains. Some have 15 strains. Why are these ingredients in these products and which one is best for my son? And so I stood there for like 15 minutes and couldn't make a decision. The store clerk comes by and is like, can I help you choose a probiotic? And I said, yeah. And she goes, what are his symptoms? And I said, well, he's got constipation. He's going in the corner and he's crying and these things. But it just dawned on me at that moment that I was treating the store clerk as the doctor, trying to help resolve the symptoms to choose the probiotics that are the treatment. And so this didn't seem right at some level. And so instead of purchasing probiotic off the shelf that day, I decided to go down the rabbit hole and buy a bunch of probiotics off the shelf and take them to my lab and start testing them. And what I found was 85% of the probiotics off the shelf wouldn't survive the gastric system, your stomach acid. And then a bunch of those products, if you do DNA verification on them, didn't actually contain the strain that was listed on the bottle. So now I wasn't feeling very comfortable giving that back to my son. And I also didn't understand the scientific rationale. So I began researching each of these strains. And I started to look at my son's symptoms and try to match them to the strains and decided to in-house some of those strains. Well, I'll cut it short. $30,000 later and 8 months later, had formulated the world's first precision probiotic based off of his gut microbiome. And that journey was not easy. It was a long, arduous journey of lab work and petri dishes and cultures and trying to understand how these probiotics work, put together like a binder full of clinical literature, just trying to convince my spouse that we needed to give my son some probiotics and why we should give him this probiotic that I was working on and formulating. I get it as a parent out there. It's challenging to give your child something new and then having to do all the research and the background to it. And that's what we, Flore and Sun Genomics, try to do, is just simplify it for all those long journeys that parents have taken to get something healthy for their kids.
Well, Sunny, thanks for setting the stage, and that's a powerful example. And however, that's an N of one, right? And that's an important N of one because that's your son, that's your family. You experience that viscerally within your own family unit. But as entrepreneurs, you know as well as I do, the best route is to go and see what the problem is in the marketplace and build products to solve for that. So I would imagine, were you receiving this type of feedback that you were experiencing with your own family from others out there when you started asking around? Were there other families that were experiencing those pain points that you were? And what was that feedback like?
Yeah, most of the time, people were just taking the probiotic that one of their friends recommended. It wasn't necessarily based off of scientific evidence or clinical efficacy or the formulation that would match the symptoms. If you have high levels of E. coli in the gut, that's a different organism versus high levels of Klebsiella then in your gut. It's an ecosystem, right? It's an ecology inside of the gut microbiome. And so we found that the paradigm of how you choose a probiotic didn't quite match to the microphysiology of how a probiotic works in the gut system. It's not quite like a vitamin mineral supplement that's kind of inert and you take it and maybe it benefits you. The probiotic is actually a living organism that's going to go into your gut and potentially thrive and release other things into your body. So you want to get that right. And that was a really interesting part of the journey.
Well, and let's talk about the journey as well. Let's stay on that for just a moment. Then we're going to ask you, what exactly is Sun Genomics? What is the Flore product? I'm going to ask you, of course, that entrepreneurs, that elevator pitch, if you will. But before we go there, Sunny, because I love to ask it, you mentioned earlier, this necessarily wasn't on your roadmap to be a founder of a startup and a company. How has it been? You're multiple years into it now, crossing that chasm, if you will. It's a tough one. How has it been for you being a founder of a company like Sun Genomics?
I mean, it has its rewards at times, but it's mostly the grind. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Every entrepreneur knows that's the truth, especially as they hit the checkpoints of fundraising, whether it be seed, Series A. Now we're approaching our Series B. Those are the scaling and acceleration moments for the company, which can be thrilling, but there's always a ton of work to do. My one thing that I always guidance on early on from my mentors was early on focus on the core technology. Make sure you're using the best technology because once you take off, you won't have time to focus on the technology. So we focused in on whole genome metagenomic sequencing, which nobody else was doing at the time in 2016. Everyone was doing 16S. We focused in on building all the software around it, all the mobile applications, the workflow at which customers would experience the product, just so when we were ready and had the acceleration capital, we could fly and not have to come back and work on the technology. Now, I still have technological development near and dear to my heart, but you spend less and less time on that as you progress through the stages of progressing the business.
Well, you set a good foundation out the gates there because you recognize that is going to be an important investment in your journey. And I couldn't agree more with you. It's a brilliant strategy, Sunny. So let's turn our focus kind of current state. As you know, and you mentioned it, being an entrepreneur, there's ups and downs, there's twists and turns along the way. But for today, because I know you guys are, 6+ years in the making at Sun Genomics, for today, what is Sun Genomics and what is Flore?
So Sun Genomics is the company behind the flagship product, Flore. Flore is the world's only precision probiotic that is made based off of your gut microbiome DNA sequencing. And what that means is we're collecting a gut sample, we're talking about poop, and we are extracting the DNA from the gut sample, which is the microbes of your gut, what they call the microbiome, and then analyzing that on a DNA sequencer. So the A, C, Gs, and Ts are all read. We can understand the functional capabilities of these organisms. We can understand the ID of these organisms. And that helps us understand, is there enough good postbiotics being released into the gut? These short-chain fatty acids, these butyrate molecules, the propionate molecules. Are we fortifying with enough prebiotics to help the probiotics that are in the gut? And thinking about botanicals and other vitamins that may act as prebiotics to help fortify the gut. And really understanding deficiencies and pathogens. Are there bad organisms, bad actors in the gut system that we can begin to inhibit and quench the nutritional source for those bad actors? That's what Flore is. It's something to enable complete visibility, transparency, and something customized based off of that information.
And in regards to the persona types that are using this, who do you see that are attracted to this type of technology, attracted to these types of products? And also, too, it seems like there's still early innings in a baseball game in regards to the masses fully understanding the abilities and capabilities of these types of technologies, of these types of innovations. But first question, who's attracted to this today? And where do you see a little bit tomorrow in regards to the mass adoption? What is it going to take to get there?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned a baseball analogy. We do have some baseball players that have used the product. We have a lot of football players that use the product, NFL teams that use the product. So performance athletes is definitely a core category for us. The others are high health IQ individuals, I call them, people that are really into understanding their biology and tracking their information. If you use a 23andMe for your genomic information, we kind of see ourselves very similar with microbiome, helping understand the microbes of your gut, but with an actual solution instead of just a static data delivery. And then we have a group of people managing their chronic conditions, people that might have IBS, IBD, Crohn's, colitis, SIBO, leaky gut, these types of conditions that just sort of exacerbate into other comorbid conditions as well. And one area that we've got two active clinical trials on, or two areas that we have active clinical trials on, is IBS. We've done a study of 490 individuals with matched controls, which is the largest IBS study using metagenomic microbiome profiling and really understanding the subtypes of A, C, and D, the alternating constipation or diarrhea forms. And then in autism spectrum disorder, we currently have the largest metagenomic clinical trial in autism spectrum disorder and the microbiome going on right now, partnering with Arizona State University on that project. These researchers are literally the world leading researchers in ASD and gut microbiome, and they've shown in clinical trials with FMTs, they can bring children with ASD to remission. And so beginning to look at that in a precision basis is some of our partnership effort with that group.
Oh, wow. That is exciting. And then Sunny as well, in regards to you and the team are lost in it on the daily because this is the company you're building. And you know as well as I do, we can espouse about our own products, our own technology, our own companies all day long. But at the end of the day, it's the consumer's voice that matters most. What's that feedback been like from some of those end users of your product? What are you hearing? Are there some themes that you're hearing over and over again? What is that end user feedback like?
It's been tremendous. If people listening in want to take a look at what people are saying about our product in a very non-biased way, I know there's a lot of people that have review systems, but I really like Trustpilot. Trustpilot does a non-biased review system where it's triggered by the customer jumping on Trustpilot and putting in a review for us. There's some amazing reviews on there. People talking about their children that have eczema that take our product and we customized it and something clicked and it removed their eczema that they've been trying to solve with for all sorts of different types of medications and topical stuff. And it turns out maybe there's a gut connection to that skin condition. There are parents with children with ASD and autism spectrum disorder that have talked about their children going from nonverbal to verbal. Now that's an N of one, and we're still working on a lot of the study, but that's just a tremendous story to me when I hear things like that. And it's super heartwarming to see that type of impact that we can bring. And it's the reason why we started the company, was to make that type of impact. There's other people that have had fibromyalgia or depression or just had some sort of impact to their lives and potentially could be very relevant to people that are having issues with long COVID now. And we kind of see that as an interesting area that might be unlocked by just improving the gut microbiome. There's several research studies coming out on this, but this individual in particular was an athlete, was a coach for junior Olympic teams, and just fell into a funk and couldn't run anymore and couldn't even walk half a mile without being tired. And she took our product early on. Now, we had our challenges in delivering the product in the turnaround time we wanted to back in 2018. But by the time she took the product and was on it, it just changed her life. She was able to now run 3 miles. She was back into her training regimen and Muay Thai fighting. It was just a tremendous story. And we're really thankful for the customers sharing those stories back with us and building the relationships over time.
It's powerful, powerful examples. Sunny, thank you for sharing that, because it's always important to hear what those end consumers are experiencing. So thank you again for sharing those important stories of the end user. Sunny, let's also look, we're going to pull the crystal ball off the shelf a little bit. This is an exciting space. Like I said earlier, I think we're still in those early innings in regards to the masses fully understanding the capabilities here. Where do you see things heading in the next 1 to 3, 2 to 3, 3 to 5 years? Things are moving fast and they're only going to continue to accelerate. Where do you see things on the macro heading? And then, of course, where is Sun Genomics going to be within that future state as well?
I mean, this is an era of personalization without question. And you're seeing more and more of it year after year. I mean, it's a double-digit CAGR growing market space. And one thing that we have observed is that there's sort of fake personalization happening, and then there's real personalization happening. And I'll call the real personalization precision. It's what precision medicine was meant to be, right? We had all the hopes of precision medicine and being able to dial in everyone's therapeutic based off of their own human biology and finding the right drug cocktails and curing them immediately at an N of one level. That's a lot of work and it didn't quite make it to fruition. But I think we can do something with precision nutrition that can be equally impactful on the preventive medicine side and have less of the regulatory hurdles and have all of the benefits of curbing some of those really terrible downstream effects. And this is where AI, I think, is tremendous. We have a system called Flore AI that utilizes all the feedback loop of information of ingredients that are working on individuals, along with their biological information, helps us understand and improve the algorithm over time of which ingredients are best for which particular types of conditions and issues. And then things that aren't working the way they are, the way they should, get filtered out, and we don't use those ingredients anymore. And it's really just optimizing a system of ingredient repository that is literally the world's best, and then optimizing the algorithm so that it's choosing only the best ingredients for your particular condition. Now that takes time. Now we're 6.5 years into it, so that's good. And we got a nice head start, but there's still work to go.
Well, of course there is. And it's as well as I do is a lot of us entrepreneurs like to say, we're just getting going, right? There's still a lot of runway in front of you. And that's an exciting future state there, Sunny. So thank you for sharing that. But let's now bring it back to current state. Let's talk a little bit of happening again now and where our community can be helping you and the Sun Genomics team. Sunny, what's one problem, need, or question that you and the team have that our amazing community rallied around this podcast can be helping you with?
Well, we always appreciate the support, whether you're a customer or an advocate, an advisor. It does take a village to bring a company like ours up. And right now, we're really focused in on the functional medicine side. We've had some amazing stories come from patients of our clinicians, and we really appreciate getting those introductions to your functional medicine doctors if you're an individual, or those that are payers that service functional medicine doctors is also another way that we can connect with those individuals. This is where I see the next opportunity for precision nutrition is through those that are actually looking to bring nutrition into their clinics as a key part of it. Now, when we go to the doctor, I don't think med school teaches more than a day or maybe a week of nutrition. But in an integrative medicine clinic, you might actually have a nutritionist there who's studied this for 3 or 4 years and then maybe has a practice that they've been operating for 3 or 4 years. So they're really experienced on nutrition, and bringing the gut microbiome into that paradigm, bringing that into the clinical side, feeding all that information into a doctor that can make decisions based off of this information. That's going to be the next evolution of products like ours and precision nutrition in general.
Well, and in regards to our community tuning in, these are the types of people and leaders that Sunny and the team want to connect with. Don't be shy in reaching out. But of course, Sunny, in order for them to reach out, they need to be able to get a hold of you. Where can our community find you online, social media handles, websites, or otherwise? How can we track you down?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn. You can find me under Sunir Sunny Jain on LinkedIn. And you can also find us at Sun Genomics. We're on Instagram at Sun Genomics, Twitter at Sun Genomics, Facebook at Sun Genomics. That's SUNGENOMIC. And our website is flore.com. Don't be shy to drop us a note through customer service at sungenomics.com.
Easy enough. And all those contact points are down in the episode notes. So in your favorite podcast player, just simply scroll down and click on through to get a hold of Sunny and the Sun Genomics team. Or you can head over to our free global online community at passionatepioneers.com. There will be a post for this episode where you can also leave comments, feedback, suggestions, or otherwise for Sunny and the team. And those contact points will be listed over there as well. Again, over at passionatepioneers.com. Well, Sunny, this has been a very exciting conversation. Love all the things happening in the Sun Genomics camp and where you see things heading not only for the industry, but for you and the team and everything you guys are building under the Sun Genomics brand. So with that, though, we have one more segment we're going to get out of here. It's a fill in the blank. Sunny, I'm a passionate pioneer because...
I'm a passionate pioneer because of those stories from our customers. I mean, really, that keeps me going. Anytime I'm having a bad day, I'll log on to my Google reviews or Trustpilot and start scrolling through. It's amazing what we've been able to achieve as a team and as a movement with our customers on this journey together. And this is only the beginning. We see some amazing milestones coming up here in the next 2-3 years. And we hope you'll join us for those milestones.
Love it. It is always about what those customers are experiencing. That's the number one thing. I absolutely love to hear that, Sunny. That's fantastic. Well, Sunny, thank you so much for joining up today. It has been an absolute pleasure hearing all of the great things happening within your camp. Thank you for taking the time to meet up with us today.
Mike, appreciate you. Love what you're doing at Passionate Pioneers.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.